Hi, my name's Andrew and I'm from the Severn Trent Academy. Today I'll be talking you through this Ace My Interview video. An interview is a great opportunity to have a two-way conversation with a recruiter. And at the start of your career you feel as though you just want to get a job, but it's important that the company you choose is right for you. Have a think about what's non-negotiable for you. A great example of this would be flexible working, particularly if you have childcare responsibilities. And from the hiring manager's perspective, many go into the recruitment process with an image of the ideal person they want for their team. However, 9 times out of 10 they won't find an exact match, and at that point the question becomes one of whether you would be a good fit with the other members of the team. So interviews are a great chance to show you have the right experience and skills, express an interest in the role and the company, learn more about the role itself in detail, and what's really important, decide if the role is actually the right one for you. And on the other hand, for the hiring manager, it's a fantastic opportunity for them to learn more about you, your individual skills and experience, and also provide insight into the role itself, as well as gathering evidence about all of the candidates. And for them, most importantly, choose to decide which candidate is most suitable for the role. Now we'll talk about the different types of interview that you can face. There is competency-based, strengths-based, video-based interviews, an assessment centre, or an informal chat or trial shift. We're going to talk about through each of these in detail throughout this session. Now let's talk a little bit about the interview structure itself. The beginning of the interview, and this is where the interviewer will try and put you at ease. They will generally ask you questions around your CV and your motivation in applying for the role. If you've been asked to give a presentation as part of your interview, it's common to do this at the start, so you just don't spend the whole interview worrying about it. For the middle part of the interview, you will be asked a series of competence-based or strength-based questions. At the end of the interview, the interviewer will let you know that the questions are over. And this is where there'll be time for you to ask any of your own questions. During the next few slides, we're going to focus on what you need to do in order to perform well in an interview scenario. Okay, let's have a look at competency-based interviews. Competency-based interviews work on the principle that past experience and behaviour is an indicator of future performance. They're objective and consistent, and they will enable employers to make fair decisions about offering a role. The interview will have a list of set questions, and these will relate to the competencies that are required to the role. So what is a competency? This is a combination of the knowledge, skills and behaviours needed to perform well within a role. So for example, if you're applying for a job as a retail sales assistant, the competencies would most likely be related to customer service. Another example would be if you're applying for a job as an accountant, the competencies might include accuracy. And during a competency interview, you'll be asked specific examples of previous work experience. It's a great opportunity to showcase your skills and experience. Your answers and the answers of all the other candidates will be compared with set criteria, so the decision around who to offer the job is completely fair. As we've already mentioned, different roles require different competencies, so the questions you are asked in a competency-based interview will depend on the role you're interviewing for. So, you can expect questions that open with describe how you, give an example of, and tell us about a time when you. On the right hand side now of the slide, you will see some examples of competency questions you might be asked. Tell me about a big decision you've made recently. How did you go about it? Give an example of when you solved the problem in a creative way. Tell me about a time when you achieved success, even when the odds were stacked against you. Describe a situation where you were asked to do something you've never attempted before. Now we move on to how you answer competency-based questions. To do this, we use a technique called the STAR technique. It's a really useful way to structure your answers to competency-based questions and also helps you with your interview preparation. First of all, we start with the situation and the task. This is where you will describe the task that is needed to be completed or the situation you are in. Then we move on to action. This is where you explain what you did, how you did it, and why you did it. And finally, we finish with results. This is where you describe the outcome of your actions. Here's an example of the STAR model in action. Question: tell me about a time when you've led a team. Answer: I led a group of colleagues in a team presentation as part of an internal design competition. The group presented our idea to the panel of senior leaders judging of the competition. After preparing our slide deck, I organised a week of rehearsals and the presentation went really well. As a result of the hard work and team effort, my leadership was highly commended and I got some great feedback, which I then passed on to the team in order to help us improve our idea. Now, with a question about teamwork, it's easy to fall into the trap of talking about what the team did and using we in your answer. It's important here to talk about your individual contribution to what the team achieved, as this helps the hiring manager learn more about you and what you can do. Now we move on to strengths-based interviews. Strengths-based interviews are a very different form of competency-based interviews, as they allow you to be selected based on your natural abilities rather than previous experience. They enable employers to gain a genuine insight into your personality and see if you'll be a good fit for their organisation. And an increasing number of employers are taking strengths-based approach to interviews. Here on the slide are some of the benefits of strengths-based interviews. We can assess for potential, answers are less rehearsed, there's a level playing field, and it reduces bias. And it's based on the theory that by identifying your strengths and matching them to the role, you'll be happier in your work, perform better, and stay with your employer for longer. So, how do we define a strength? A strength is something you do well and enjoy doing. When an employer decides to take a strengths approach to recruitment, they do lots of thinking in advance around strengths that are needed to succeed in the role. And during the interview, the interviewer will ask questions around these strengths. The style of questions is very different from a competency interview. There's no right or wrong answers. The other thing to bear in mind is that there may not be any probing or follow-up questions. So it's really important to include lots of detail and examples to bring your answers to life. And don't forget, the interviewer will be taking notes of your answers and your body language, along with your tone of voice. If you're genuinely describing something you enjoy, your enthusiasm will shine through. The general theory is that if you're energised by the content you share during the interview, then there's every chance that the role is well matched to your strengths. On the screen you'll see a great quote from Alex Linley. A strength is something that you do well and enjoy doing. When using a strength, people feel authentic and energised as they deliver successful performance. Okay, now we're going to go over engagement and some of the things that the interviewer is looking for. To be successful in a strengths-based interview, listen carefully and answer each question naturally and honestly. The interviewer will look for signs of engagement, including great examples. These must contain lots of detail. So if you're asked what you like to do in your spare time, don't just say I like playing football. Add some extra details like, I like playing football, I'm part of a Sunday league team, and we get together every week, even when it's cold and raining. Be spontaneous. Recruiters love the strengths approach because there's no STAR technique here to help candidates structure their answers, and the answers sound less rehearsed. so they know what you say is an indicator of how you think on your feet. You could add something spontaneous to the football example mentioned earlier. For example, by saying, "We even played 2 years ago when we had all that snow. It was freezing, but we had such a laugh." Mean what you say. The interviewer will be looking for you to talk enthusiastically and passionately about the stuff you love, and it doesn't have to be exotic or exciting. Baking and PC gaming are just as good as paragliding and windsurfing. The most important thing here is that your enthusiasm shines through. Talking for 30 seconds to a minute about your interests and passions can be harder than it sounds, so it's definitely worth practicing. Give your answers some high energy and expressiveness. This shows how excited you are about the potential job and working for the organisation. You could add some high energy detail to our football example by saying something like, "I play midfield. I love all the running around and it gives me a great workout. However, on this note, try and avoid speaking about anything as if it's a huge effort." Be open and have a relaxed body language. Body language is a good indicator about how genuine and energised you are. You should be open and relaxed. It's generally considered okay to have one thing crossed, like your legs, because it's a more comfortable way to sit, but try not to cross your arms as well, as this can come across as defensive. Okay, let's have a look at some strength-based questions. On the screen are some examples. What do you like to do in your spare time? Do you like starting tasks or finishing them? How do you feel about deadlines? What motivates you? How would your friends describe you? And what are your weaknesses? Don't forget, there are no right or wrong answers to these type of questions. The interview is simply trying to get an idea of what makes you tick, so they can work out if you'll be happy in the role. So the most important thing you can do is let your personality shine through. Where the question presents you with a choice, for example, do you like starting tasks or finishing them, it's fine to say that you like both. These questions look deceptively simple, and as though a short answer would not be sufficient. But remember, interviewers are looking for the same level of detail that you would give in a competency-based interview. Let's talk about preparing for strengths interviews. Even though it's harder to prepare for a strengths-based interview because you have no idea what you'll be asked, you can still put yourself in the best possible position by thinking about your strengths and how they could benefit the organisation you're working through. For example, read up on the job description and identify what strengths the employer is looking for. Make a list of your own strengths. Think about things that energise you and what you enjoy doing. Last but not least, think. Think about how your strengths could benefit the organisation you're hoping to work for. Let's discuss video interviews. These are traditionally used early on in the interview process, and in recent times, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, more interviews have moved online. However, there are some challenges with these. Not everyone is comfortable on camera. There are technical challenges, particularly around connectivity and time delays. This short section is all about being prepared, so you can overcome the challenges and move on to the next stage of the process. Live video interviews are more like face-to-face interviews, so you speak to the interviewer in real time over applications such as Skype, Zoom or Teams. This helps to make the most of the experience and make it feel more like a traditional interview. Pre-recorded videos are much less personal. You're presented with a pre-recorded or written question on the screen. Then you record your answer, often within a set time limit. When you're invited to an interview, ask about the format. Will it be live or will it be pre-recorded? Will the questions be competency or strengths-based? Choose your location carefully. Make sure you have somewhere quiet, well lit, tidy and clean, and make sure you have a simple background. Don't forget you're trying to look as professional as possible. Lighting is really important, so experiment with table lamps or task lamps if your room is quite dark. Some software lets you blur the background, so it's well worth experimenting beforehand if you can. And wherever you decide to do your video interview, let anyone nearby know so you're not disturbed. If you're in a situation where you're likely to be disturbed, for example if you're looking after young children, tell the interviewer about this at the start. They will understand. Make sure you check the settings on your computer. For example, computer camera, microphone and any software you've been asked to use are all working correctly. Check that everything is fully charged or plugged in. The last thing you want is the video to die when you're halfway through the interview. And close any software that might play notification sounds. And don't forget to dress appropriately for the interview, as if you would do in a face-to-face real-life situation. If you have a video interview coming up, maybe print this slide out or make some notes and use it as a preparation checklist. Let's move on to informal interviews. You can be invited to an informal interview at any stage of the recruitment process. For example, if you made a speculative application to a company, they may invite you along. Early on in the process, they may want to see if you're a good fit with the culture. And at the end of the process, they may invite you in to chat through any final details and meet other members of the team. This type of interview can take place anywhere from a coffee shop to the employer's office. Interviewers like this approach because you're generally more relaxed and it's easy to get an idea about your personality and fit with the company's culture. Informal interviews are far less stressful, but the opportunities to showcase your skills and experience are less obvious. So this slide shows some top tips to help you perform at your best. Before your informal interview, prepare as you would do for a formal interview. Plan the questions you want to ask. Think about how you could contribute to the company. During the informal interview, dress as you would do for a formal interview. Be professional. Listen actively and ask lots of questions. And after your informal interview, it's a really good gesture to send a thank you email. Okay, let's talk about trial shifts. Trial shifts are very common in the retail and hospitality sector. This is where you're invited to spend time working on the shop floor, in the bar or restaurant, for example. And these shifts can last anything from half an hour to a full day. The idea behind trial shifts is to see if you have the skills to succeed in the role, and employers generally look for you to demonstrate the following aspects. Presence. Are you comfortable and confident in the environment? Have you got a willingness to get stuck in and help out? And how good are you at relationship building, with both the team and the customers? On the screen now, we put together some top tips to help you get the best out of a trial shift. Arrive in plenty of time. 10 minutes before is more than adequate. Don't forget to be clear with the prospective employer and ask just exactly what is expected of you. Smile, both for your colleagues and your customers. It will also give you a lift as well. Introduce yourself to everyone on the shift and ask how you can help colleagues. And from the very start, make sure you get stuck in and support them, offering great customer service along the way. Don't forget to ask for help if you don't know the answer to a customer's question. And at the end of your trial shift, it's really important that you ask for feedback. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's video.